Recently, I've been playing not only a lot of Pokemon X and Y, but Generation 3. These games are arguably my favorite to this day, only rivaled by Crystal, the remakes of Gold and Silver, and the new generation. Well, that's actually a lot, but still. Now that the hype of X and Y has settled down, and most people have beat the game, there's buzz about what's next. Some say obviously Pokemon Z because, well, it only makes sense. Others are predicting Generation 3 remakes. Now today, we're going to be discussing the second of the two. It seems to be on everyone's mind. I mean, Generations 1 and 2 got them, so why not the third? And although this makes sense, I don't know if it's a sure thing as everyone thinks it is. And today, I'm going to give you my opinion on whether we may be seeing these games remade or not. Let's get going. To see if these games are going to be made or not, we first need to ask why. Well, let's look at the reasons for the Kanto and Johto remakes. Generation 1 was extremely glitchy, and gaming graphically had come very far for handhelds between the time of Gen 1 and Gen 3. And an updating version of everyone's favorite game needed to happen. These games were also made for marketing reasons. After Generation 2, Pokemon was losing popularity fast, and the backlash of Pokemania was in full swing. People were overwhelmed by the 150 new Pokemon of Hoenn, and Game Freak needed to bring old fans back by releasing a newer version of the old games. As for Gold and Silver, nearly none of the old copies of Generation 2 still even function because of a worn-out internal battery. Once that battery wears out, your save file is deleted as well, which made a lot of people frustrated. These games were gems, and many people needed to experience them again, and the remakes had to be made. And it was a big hit. These games ended up being one of the best received Pokemon games by fans, even those who had left after the first generation and were just getting back into the game. Since these games were so well received, then obviously it would be a smart move to make third gen remakes, right? Well, Pokemon has since moved to a 3D platform, where it is more expensive to make games, and unless Pokemon would take a step back to make these games DS games instead of 3DS games, which is highly unlikely, they're going to have to pay a pretty hefty development price. See, Fire Red and Leaf Green were built on top of Sapphire and Ruby, which made for easier and faster development than starting from scratch. It would be pretty hard for Game Freak to develop this game on this new platform, especially a region like Hoenn, with its many intricacies. Although these games would be stunning if made, it's a big risk for developers. RSE was not as popular as Gold, Silver, and Crystal, with Generation 2 racking in 29 million in sales, and Generation 3 only bringing in 22 million. The remakes of Heart Gold and Soul Silver sold 11 million copies, about 1/3 of the originals, and if we do the same calculation for a new RSE remake, that would only sell 7 million copies, significantly less, and that's not taking into account that RSE was not nearly as well received as Gold, Crystal, and Silver. So, next reason, why would these games have to be made? Generation 1, obvious reasons, and Generation 2, save files. But Generation 3 doesn't have either of these problems. Its graphics are strong for a 32-bit system, and it has a nicely executed plot and a large postgame in Emerald. Now, a bigger postgame wasn't part of the majority of the games purchased of Gen 3, as Emerald only sold 6 million of the 22 million copies, but the postgame is still there. The only logical reasons these games would really have to be remade is for a bigger postgame, and that's why Emerald was made. I mean, I know absolutely no one who has gotten all the gold symbols from the Frontier Brains, caught all the legendaries, and explored all of Hoenn. I would love more than anything to see Hoenn in 3D, but it's not all that necessary. Like I said, the 32-bit system holds up well, and these games graphically are still fine. So we have 2 points for the nay. Let's look at some of the positives of these games being remade. Number 1, many people believe it's being hinted at already, with several people mentioning things about Hoenn in X and Y. Many people believe this could be hinting at these games' glorious return. Number 2, the Pokemon community has grown stronger since. Many of the kids who like Pokemon simply grew out of it by the time 3rd gen was around. But since, many have returned. We've had a lot of fans return, and many haven't played RSE. I think sales would rival, if not surpass, those of Heart Gold and Soul Silver. I know for a 100% fact I would be there on the midnight release of these remakes. if they happen. And I wouldn't be leaving with one copy, I'd be leaving with both, no matter how much cash I'd have to drop. These games are the most nostalgic to me, and their playback value is still incredible to me to this day. But what I said contradicts itself. I still play these games and don't see many problems with them at all. That's why Game Freak hasn't released the floodgates yet. They know RSE are still very playable and are loved to this day. Sure, things like special and physical attack distinction need to be fixed, and an easier competitive aspect would be nice to add to these games, but I just don't think that's on top of Game Freak's agenda right now. With how well Pokemon X and Y was received, I'm sure they're itching to move on to new and exciting projects. What I think would be a better use of time and money is a return to Hoenn, not a remake. Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, and Red, Blue, and Yellow are placed at the same time period, according to most fans. It's been estimated that X and Y are about 7 years in the future. It would be amazing to see an updated version of Hoenn, new gyms, cities, villains. I think if Game Freak was to use time with Hoenn, it would be best spent making a new adventure. The originals hold up so well to this day, it's not hard to find a copy. Yes, some may be fakes, but you can still play these games on your Game Boy easily. Another easy fix to this problem would be a virtual console release. Playing these games on a virtual console wouldn't be that bad, and that way everyone would get to experience them. It wouldn't be limited to just the copies left in circulation. Hate this video or love it, that's what I believe is going on right now. It's not a top priority to remake these games, but if somehow anyone important at Game Freak ever sees this, I guarantee if you make these games, people will buy them, myself included. Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald are becoming lost classics, released over 10 years ago. I think it's time to see these guys make a reappearance, whether it's a new adventure or the same one. So anyway, those are my thoughts on it. Am I saying remakes are out of the question? Definitely not. I'd say there's only about a 10% chance it would be announced in 2014 like everyone thinks. I think these guys need a little more time to get a reappearance, but I think it will happen, whether it's in the next 10 years or 10 years after that. I hope Hoenn comes back. Wow, this video's finally over. Didn't look like that was ever gonna end. Anyway, if you liked what you saw, hit that subscribe button. And yeah, Pokemon. Alright, have a nice day, I guess. There's that subscribe button. Guess you didn't hit it if you're still here. Might want to do that. Yeah. Anyway, bye.